From the moment one steps into the swirling debate over nomenclature, Black African American, Black American, there's something deeply unsettling in the tension beneath the surface. On one side lies a term laden with pride, struggle, and reclamation, and on the other, a term that conjures genealogical roots, continental belonging, and historical continuity. And yet, for many African Americans, the term African American can feel less like an anchor than a tether, something imposed, flattened, or even misleading. Why do some descendants of enslaved Africans actively resist affiliation with Africa, insisting instead on the label Black American? The answer lies in complex histories of identity, memory, migration, and the politics of naming itself. The term African American didn't emerge from the ether. It was forged in the fires of civil rights activism. A deliberate rebranding meant to instill pride and connection. In the late 1980s, civil rights leader Jesse Jackson championed its adoption, arguing that it honored the ancestral roots of Black people in the US, much like Italian American or Irish American did for others. He emphasized that Black alone failed to capture the diversity of skin tones and experiences, declaring in household discussions that his family shared an African heritage despite varying complexions. By 1989, figures like historian Roger Wilkins echoed this, expressing a profound sense of legitimacy when visiting Africa, as if finally standing on solid ground after generations of displacement. This push culminated in a 1988 meeting where Jackson and leaders from organizations like the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People urged the community to embrace African American for its air of dignity and lineage, free from the derogatory baggage of older terms like colored or Negro. At the time, it felt revolutionary, a way to reclaim a continent stolen by slavery's brutality. Yet, fast forward to today, and the term's shine has dulled for many. Investigative polls reveal a telling ambivalence. A 2020 Gallup survey found that 58% of Black adults had no strong preference between Black and African American. But among those who did, Black edged out slightly, with 24% favoring it over 17% for African American. Earlier data from 1991, just after Jackson's campaign, showed even more division. 61% indifferent, but preferences nearly split among the rest. A 2011 Pew Research study delved deeper, noting that while 52% of respondents didn't care, those preferring Black often cited a disconnection from Africa or a broader cultural identity that transcended geography. These numbers aren't static. They hint at a generational shift where younger Black Americans influenced by global movements like Black Lives Matter lean towards Black for its inclusivity and defiance. Demographic transformations lie at the heart of this intrigue. In 1980, only about 816,000 African-born immigrants lived in the US. By 2019, that figure had exploded to 4.6 million, comprising 10% of the nation's Black population. This surge, driven by refugees, professionals, and families from countries like Nigeria, Ethiopia, and Ghana, has muddied the waters. Sadly, African American encompasses not just descendants of enslaved people whose ties to Africa were severed centuries ago, but also recent arrivals like comedian Trevor Noah from South Africa, or entrepreneur Elon Musk, both technically eligible for the label, yet worlds apart in experience. Even non-black Americans such as white South Africans could claim it, rendering the term as absurd as it is imprecise. As one commentator noted, lumping Cedric the Entertainer with Noah or Musk under one banner feels not just silly but dismissive of the unique traumas and triumphs of American-born black lineages. Personal stories illuminate this disconnection with startling clarity. Consider the account of black American journalist Aisha Harris attending a wedding in Kenya back in 2014, expecting some ancestral pool. Instead, she felt like a tourist amid roaming livestock, Swahili ceremonies, and jokes that sailed over her head. Explaining her American roots to locals underscored the gulf. For Kenyans, black skin equated to African identity. But for her, being black meant navigating US specific prejudices like police brutality and beauty standards skewed against dark skin. She later reflected that preferring black American wasn't a denial of African genes, but an acknowledgement of her upbringing in a land where slavery's legacy forged a distinct culture, one infused with black cool, from West African aesthetics to jazz and hip-hop. This sentiment echoes across social platforms where black Americans share frustrations. One descendant of enslaved people argued that black represents the ethnicity, not mere color, a homograph born from America's racial crucible antithesis to specific African tribes. Another recounted childhood shame over fabricating a family crest, unable to trace roots beyond US soil, only to embrace black American as a badge of resilience. Critics of African American point to its bureaucratic chill. It evokes forms of euphemisms, a 7-syllable mouthful resistant to shorthand, unlike Italian or Asian. It was intended to elevate, but like homeless replacing bomb, it accumulated the same stigmas over time. In a chilling 2020 incident, a white woman in Central Park weaponized the term, threatening to tell police an African American man was endangering her, stripping it of any protective pride. For many, black carries a raw power. Think Black Power, Black is Beautiful, or Lorraine Hansberry's Young, Gifted and Black. It encapsulates a shared culture of resistance, from the Harlem Renaissance to modern activism, without forcing a continental link that feels inauthentic. As a Pew study on black identity revealed, 74% of black adults see being black as central to their self-perception, tied more to community and history than geography. This preference isn't universal. Some proudly claim both terms interchangeably, viewing African American as a nod to origins while black affirms global solidarity. Immigrants from the Caribbean or African often discover black as an identity only upon arrival, where US racism lumps them in regardless of nationality. A Jamaican immigrant shared how they never identified as black back home, surrounded by similar faces, but adopted it in the UK amid slurs and exclusion. Conversely, some Africans reject black, insisting on tribal or national labels, highlighting how America's one-drop rule, a relic of slavery dictating that any African ancestry makes one black, clashes with global views. This tension fuels debate. Why do black Americans bristle at African associations? For many, it's the erasure of the American-specific saga, slavery, Jim Crow, redlining the Tulsa Massacre, events that birthed a unique ethnicity. As one activist put it, Black harness ancestors who become something new and proud on US soil without romanticizing a distant homeland. Unraveling this reveals a profound truth. Identity isn't fixed. It's a mosaic shaped by history's brutal hand and personal agency. The preference for Black over African American isn't turning away from Africa so much as a refusal to let Africa stand in for identity, where identity is America shaped. African Americans are not monolithic, and identity categories must be porous, contested, and open to negotiations. Some embrace both tags interchangeably. Others shift depending on the context. Some see Black as a cultural identity, not merely race. Others view African American as too genealogically rigid or insufficiently political. The most important rule is respect. To allow each person to choose the name that carries the weight they want, to reflect the history they see themselves within. Ultimately, the tension between Black and African American is a microcosm of the broader struggle over self-definition in a society that has long tried to name us for us. Refusing a particular label is not erasure, it is accession. And in that refusal, there is agency, clarity, and power. Your perspective matters. Which term do you think is more appropriate? Black or African American? Share your thoughts and insights in the comment section below. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe to the new Africa channel and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our informative future videos. Stay informed, stay engaged, and thank you for watching.